1.1 rectangular coordinates. If you're drawing a coordinate plane, we want to have most of the time centered around the origin like this. We will want arrows at the end of every line. Arrows indicate that I could continue counting in that direction if I wanted to. The side to side line, the horizontal line is your x-axis, label it. The up and down line, the vertical line, is your y-axis, label it. And the origin is in the middle, that's your 0, 0. Okay. By default, when you put your tick marks, you're counting by 1. And if you're not counting by 1, you need to label them with numbers. Make them evenly spaced for all of them. So for this one, I am not putting in any numbers, so you can assume that I'm counting by 1 in every direction. When you have a coordinate plane like this, there are 5 sections in the coordinate plane. The first 4 are what we call quadrants. The first quadrant is the top right. This is quadrant number 1. Quadrant number 1 starts over there because that's where your x values are positive and your y values are also positive. So where everything's positive, that's going to be number 1. And then we go counterclockwise for the other ones, and we use Roman numerals. So to the left of that will be quadrant 2, below that quadrant 3, and next to that will be quadrant 4. But I just said that there are 5 sections to this, and I clearly only see 4. Where's the 5th part? The 5th section I'm talking about is on the axis itself. So imagine if I took a dart and I threw it at this picture right here. There are 5 sections it could be at. It could be in quadrant 1, 2, 3, or 4, but then it could also be on one of the lines, which means it's on the axis and it's not in quadrant 1 or quadrant 4. It's just on the line. That's why this is considered 5 sections. Definition. I'm going to go to the left. I'm going to do lowercase d, e, f with a half box around it. Point. Points are labeled as x, y. Now, typically when you hear this, you're gonna, X is when you're going left or right, and Y is when you're going up and down. A lot of students will get confused on which way to go first, and I like to think of this as a run and jump. Run and jump. And I call it a run and jump because what I'll do is I'll pretend that there's like a little person standing on 0, 0, and as they're trying to get to a point, so say this is the little person, they have to run to the first number and they'll jump to the second number, which physically makes sense. I can run anywhere and I can jump. But if I try to go in the up and down direction first, that would mean that I'm jumping and then I'm running in the air, which is not possible. We don't jump and run in the air, right? We can run anywhere and jump, or I'll say it's a run and then a fall. Yeah, but you run sideways first and then you choose to go your up and your down, positive or negative. So, part of your homework is going to be just graphing or finding points. Example, go back over to the left, capital E, little x, and a half box. Example number 1. I'm going to draw a blank coordinate plane that goes out to 3 in every direction. A blank coordinate plane going out 3 in every direction. Label your x, your y, and your 0. And on this particular graph, you're going to have a point that's given to you. On the y line, put a point at number 2. We'll call it capital B. Points are capital letters. The other point, if you go along the x line to 3, but then you go up to 1, that's your point. We'll call it A. Question A. Find the coordinates of A. So that means write A as an XY point. Well, remember, we have to run and jump to get to A. So pretend that you're at 0, 0. If I'm trying to get to the point A, what number will I run to? I run to the number 3, and then I'll jump to the number 1. So this coordinate is 3, 1. B. To figure out B, I'm going to start back at 0, 0. What number do I run to? I don't run anywhere, I just stay right there, right? What number is that? 0. And then I jump to 2. So I run to 0, then I can jump up to 2. So my coordinate pair here is 0, 2. B, you graph. Graph the point C at -1, -3. So you're gonna graph the point. That means that I start at 0, 0, and what number do I run to? -1. And I'm gonna jump to -3, but because it's negative, instead of going up, I go down. So I'm gonna go down to -3, and that's my point. C, which I'll label with a capital letter. C, name quadrant of C. So that C point that you just drew in there, what quadrant is that in? 3, because again, the top right is 1, then left is 2, down here is 3. This is quadrant 3. Diamond, go back to your left. Midpoint formula. Midpoint formula is used to find the middle of 2 points. So if I pick any random 2 points on a graph, the midpoint formula will tell you exactly where the middle is. So this is the middle between, I'm gonna write B/T for between 2 points. We will typically call the midpoint capital M. And to find the midpoint, you're going to open parentheses, and then in a fraction, you're gonna do x sub 1 plus x sub 2 all over 2, comma, y sub 1 plus y sub 2 all over 2, close parentheses. That's your midpoint formula, such that S dot T x1 comma y1 and x2 y2 are points. So basically, you're adding the x's, divide by 2, add the y's, divide by 2. Diamond. The other formula for today is distance formula. And the distance formula tells you the length between B/T, 2 points. So instead of finding the middle, it's like basically just telling you like how long the distance is between the 2 points. Distance formula is labeled with a lowercase d, and this is square root, big square root, of open x sub 2 minus x sub 1 closed squared plus open y sub 2 minus y sub 1 close squared, and that square root bar goes over all of that. And again, such that S dot T x1 y1 and x2 y2 are points. Example. Capital E, lowercase x with a half box, and we're on example number 2. Open, -7, 8, closed, and the point 3, 9. A, find midpoint. So earlier we said midpoint is capital M. And to find the midpoint, remember every point that you're given is an X and a Y. This point is an X and a Y. And then like just to differentiate, this is X1, Y1, and this is X2, Y2. I don't really need to label it like that. When you're doing the midpoint formula, you're basically just adding the two x's and dividing by 2, right? So what are my two x values of these points? What's my first x value? -7. Plus, what's my other x value? 3. I'm going to divide that by 2. And then to figure out my new y, I'm going to add my two y's, which are what? 8 plus 9 divided by 2. Now, if it adds nicely and it divides nicely, cool, great. If not, leave it as a fraction. That's okay. What is -7 plus 3? -4. Divided by 2 is -2. Over here, 8 plus 9 is 17, which doesn't divide by 2. So I'm going to just leave it as 17 over 2, and that's okay. There's my midpoint. And the last question for today, B, using the same points, find the distance. So we're using distance formula. Again, there's my x1, y1, there's my x2, y2. Distance is D equals square root. Now the formula is open x2. What's x2 here? 3 minus x1. What's x1 here? -7. Now I have a minus and I'm about to write -7. Instead of writing minus a negative, what can I write? Minus a negative is the same thing as writing a plus. Yeah? Minus a negative is plus 7. Close, squared, I'll leave it. Plus, open, I'm just following the formula up here. Y sub 2, what's y sub 2? 9 minus y sub 1, which is 8, closed, squared. Make sure to extend the square root. Now remember, if you're doing a test or a quiz and you have at least the formula right, you're gonna get a few points. Even if you like calculate it and your answer is wrong, if your initial setup is correct, you're gonna get partial credit, right? So it's always a good idea to show the formula with the numbers plugged in, just so you know, make sure that you get some points in case your answer is wrong, okay? Now we're going to evaluate order of operations as parentheses first. 3 plus 7 is 10 squared, plus 9 minus 8 is 1 squared. I still have to do the square root. What's 10 squared? 100. Plus 1 squared, which is 1. 100 plus 1 is 101. I do not know the square root of 101, so I could just leave this as it is. If it was like a perfect square, like I got the square root of 81, then I would need to actually square root it, but I don't know this square root, so I'm just gonna leave it like that. That's all.